Beneath the relentless African sun, a quiet cave offered shelter to a weary lioness giving birth. Hidden among the rocks, she lay still, breathing slowly while protecting the fragile lives that had just entered the world. The air was warm and silent except for the faint sounds of newborn cubs moving close to their mother. Yet something about them was immediately unusual. Their fur was not the golden color typical of most lions that roam the savanna. Instead, their tiny bodies were covered in fur so pale it appeared almost white. It was the result of a rare genetic mutation, something few people ever witness in the wild. While beautiful, their bright coats made them dangerously visible in a land where survival often depends on blending into the tall grass and dusty earth. Far across the valley, a small ranger outpost overlooked the landscape. A wildlife ranger named Emily Carter studied the distant cave through a pair of binoculars. Even from that distance, the pale cubs were easy to spot against the darker rocks. She slowly lowered the binoculars, concern forming on her face. "Those cubs stand out too much," she murmured. "Nature might not protect them the way it protects others." Beside her stood her partner, Daniel Brooks, who watched the valley with quiet patience. The wind rolled through the endless grasslands as life across the savanna continued without pause. Back at the cave, the lioness sensed movement beyond the rocks. Her ears lifted toward the distant rustling of grass. Shapes shifted quietly in the distance. A small group of hyenas had noticed the cave and were watching carefully. Opportunistic and patient, they searched constantly for weakness. The lioness turned her head and looked down at her cubs, 3 tiny lives that depended entirely on her protection. But their bright fur could easily attract danger. Guided by instinct and the harsh laws of the wild, she made a painful choice. Slowly, she stepped away from the cave and slipped into the golden grass. Inside, the cubs cried softly, crawling across the cool stone as they searched for warmth. They did not understand where their mother had gone. Time passed quietly as shadows stretched across the valley. At the ranger station, Emily kept watching, torn between the urge to intervene and the understanding that the wild followed its own rules. As the afternoon faded, a large figure appeared near the cave entrance. A powerful male lion approached slowly, his heavy mane moving with each step. He was the dominant male of that territory. The cubs remained huddled together as he lowered his massive head and stepped inside the cave. Instead of harm, something unexpected happened. The male lion settled down beside the cubs. His thick mane spread across the ground like a warm blanket. One cub crawled into the soft fur, another pressed against his chest, and the third curled near his paw. The warmth of his presence slowly replaced their fear. High on the ridge, Daniel watched through his binoculars, surprised by the quiet act of protection. Something about the moment stayed with him. The sun sank lower, and night gradually covered the savanna. Darkness brought new dangers. The hyenas moved closer, circling through the tall grass. When they approached the cave, the male lion rose to his feet and released a thunderous roar that echoed across the valley. The hyenas hesitated but did not completely retreat. Then, another shape appeared in the distance. The lioness had returned. Seeing the male lion guarding her cubs, she rushed forward. Now both lions stood together in defense while the 3 small cubs rested behind them. Faced with united strength, the hyenas slowly backed away into the night. But the valley faced another threat. Far across the savanna, headlights suddenly appeared. A dark truck moved along the edge of the protected land. Daniel spotted the vehicle immediately. Emily started the ranger jeep while Daniel fired a bright flare into the sky. Red light spread across the grasslands, illuminating the area. The approaching truck slowed, its occupants realizing they had been seen. Within moments, it turned around and disappeared into the darkness. Gradually, silence returned to the valley. The jeep idled beneath a sky filled with fading stars as both rangers continued watching the distant road. By morning, the horizon glowed with the soft colors of dawn. Near the cave, the lioness gently cleaned each cub while the male lion rested nearby. As the sun rose higher, the tiny white cubs followed their parents out into the golden savanna, beginning a life that would test their strength and resilience. Stories like this remind us that the wild is full of unexpected moments, where danger, courage, and protection often appear side by side. If you enjoyed this story and want to experience more incredible wildlife tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next adventure.